And welcome to the Week 6, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, weekend edition of the video newsletter. The game predictions and commission analysis coming at you right now. So let's not waste any time. Let's jump right into it. Our game of the week. So I chose the number 1 Steakhouse versus the number 10 Joppatown Jaguars as our game of the week. Not based on how they're doing this year, because obviously Jaguars are not doing well at number 10 in the polls, while the Steakhouse are number 1. It's more about history. These are two of the original franchises, two of the three with the records as well. So it's a historic matchup here. And plus, I really couldn't find something in the matchups this week that I really like, so I figured I'd go with the history here. Let's get number 1 T-Bone in there anyway. So let's get to it. The game, Mr. Franchise Tag himself, Kirk Cousins, will be leading the way here for T-Bone, who saw Carson Wentz go for over 30 last night, but can't question that start. Good move. Jameis Winston on the other side for the Jaguars should be about even. Winston's been pretty good. Not as consistent as I would like, but he's been decent. Now, Fournette, Aaron Jones, and Lamar Miller for the Steakhouse looked pretty good last week. There's no reason why they shouldn't be good again this week. Now that's two rookies in there with Jones, who is filling in for Ty Montgomery, and Fournette has been one of the best rookies. Probably him and Hunt, 1 and 2. Argue which one you want as 1, which one you want as 2. It doesn't really matter. They're both really good. DeMarco Murray and Devontae Freeman. Freeman was on a bye last week, and he's obviously been very good. Jaguars probably their best player, no doubt about that. DeMarco Murray has not been good. Maybe this is the week he gets off. We'll see on Monday night. Should be interesting. Right now, the Forte is in there. It could be Kearse. It could be Hearns. Who the hell knows? I have no idea. But the receivers, Crabtree and Tate versus Cooks and Pryor. I think Crabtree and Tate might have a little bit of an edge there. Not much. Not significant enough to make a difference, but it'll be close to even. Now, Hunter Henry has started twice, and he's put up 0 points in each of those starts. The Jaguars have actually gotten zeros in three out of 5 weeks from their tight ends. Once from Ingram, twice from Hunter Henry. So they're going with Hunter Henry this week, who had a decent week last week. We'll see. Now, Kittles will be going for the Steakhouse, who they picked up off of free agency this week after Charles Clay is down, and their other tight end, Eifert, just got put on the IR. So that's 3 years out of 5 for that guy. So he obviously cannot stay healthy. But that's, Sukkot versus Prater as the kickers. We'll see what happens there. You can never predict a kicker. The Packers D versus the Eagles D. The Eagles D went last night. They gave up 23 points to the Panthers, but still managed 11 points in fantasy with 3 interceptions. So a decent performance for them despite giving up the 23. So right now the site actually has the Steakhouse favored with that effort last night by the Eagles D by about 5. We'll see. I definitely think T-Bone will win. You can't not favor T-Bone. I mean, he's scoring and the Jaguars aren't. I'm going to put it at 9.9 for the Steakhouse. So look for the Steakhouse for the double-digit victory here over Joppatown, going to 5-1, while the Jaguars will drop to 2-4. Next! So game number 2 of week 6 features the number 5 People's Champ versus the number 9 North Dallas 40. This game got started last night with Kelvin Benjamin having a very decent performance with 9 receptions for 99 yards, giving him 14.4 fantasy points, so a very good start for him. This matchup right now, Brady versus Flacco. Flacco, who the 40 picked up, I believe, this morning to start at quarterback against Chicago. We'll have to wait and see on that one, but Flacco, I wouldn't expect much from him. Brady has been banged up all week, missing practice. I think he's back today, and I expect him to go, full go on Sunday against the Jets, and he'll probably do a pretty decent number, so I look for that advantage to be significant there. Now, the running backs, Marshawn Lynch and Henry for People's Champ. Lynch should be okay. He looked good last week, finally, after a couple bad weeks in a row there. He should be fine. Henry, I don't know. We'll see. He's a guy who can bust out, one big run for a touchdown, and, that makes a fantasy week. So we'll have to wait and see on that one on Monday night. Ingram and Bell on the other side with Elliott, who looks like he's going to be getting that suspension, would be on the bye week anyway this week, but he's out of the lineup. And it's Bell and Ingram in there for the 40. Bell, obviously the best running back in this game, but he has not really performed like the Le'Veon Bell that we expected. He's been okay, but he hasn't been that number 2 pick that we come to love there. And the receivers, significant advantage there for People's Champ there with Hogan, Adams, who just recently acquired, and T.Y. Hilton, who surprisingly with the bad quarterback situation has been pretty good so far, at least for the yards. So I expect that trio to significantly outplay Rashad Matthews, Mike Wallace, and Benjamin, who went last night, who had a decent performance, but I don't think that those guys can keep up. So that's going to be tough. Then you got Jordan Reed, who's back from injury finally for Peoples at tight end against Gronkowski. Gronk, you would think, is going to win that matchup, but Reed is really good too. So as long as he is healthy, he should be fine. And we don't even know how healthy Gronk is, so who knows? So I'm going to just put that as like a push. It's like an even matchup right now. Kickers, I'll go even. Tavecchio versus McManus, whatever. And then the Patriots D versus the Ravens D. Patriots, you might think, has a little bit of an edge against the Jets, but the Jets have been surprising everyone this year, so who the hell knows with them? And the Ravens against Chicago at home, that should be a decent number as well, probably about even there as well. So the site actually has the 40 favored by about 6.5. I don't believe it's going to go that way. I don't. I believe People's Champ will win this game. It's tough to pick against the 5-ranked team against the 9-ranked team, especially when the 9-ranked team is 1-4. So I have to wait and see before I can get behind the 40 here. And I do like the People's matchups a little better. So I'm going to go People's Champ by 4.5. So look for that 4.5 point victory for TPC. Next! Game number 3 of this week 6 features the number 2 Uncle Ron's Chicken and Waffles versus number 12 Ballstein Models. Obviously, you know who's going to be favored here. The Models are struggling to score this year. They do have that one victory at 1-4, while the Waffles are 4-1-0. So it's obvious who in the end I'm going to pick. But let's look at this matchup anyway. Cam Newton went last night for the Waffles, putting up a 28.05 effort in a losing game. He did have the 3 interceptions and still managed to 28 points. So that was a very good effort for him. Very good fantasy week for the Waffles there. They'll take it. Aaron Rodgers on the other side, he's going to do well. He should at least tie Cam Newton. So, with the 28 already for Newton, we'll just say that matchup's a push. If maybe Rodgers goes a little higher, a little lower, who knows? But we'll say it's about a push. Now, running backs, we got Javaris Allen and Melvin Gordon, who was sensational last week against the Giants, against Andre Ellington, Coleman, and Abdullah. Abdullah actually, I think, has a pretty good matchup this week at the Saints. This could be one of those weeks where he actually does have one of those good performances there. As we all probably overheard every Detroit game, they haven't had a 100-yard rusher since Reggie Bush in like 2013 or something, which they say every 5 minutes during one of their games. But maybe this is the week. Who knows? But that should actually be a pretty good game for him. Now, Julio Jones should be back after getting banged up 2 weeks ago in their last game. Randall Cobb, the other wide receiver for the Models, going against Thielen, Fitzgerald, and Mike Thomas. Obviously, it's kind of even, I would say, all around, despite the fact that, I feel like the running backs and the receivers combined here, the 5 players, are not that far apart in points. I think the Waffles probably have a little bit of the edge there. So we'll see how that goes. I think I will give the Waffles the edge of those 5 running back wide receiver combos there. Now, the tight ends, Kelsey versus Fleener. I expect Kelsey to win this matchup over Fleener. Fleener has been decent. He was okay last game. But Kelsey obviously is the number 2 rated tight end in the league. Maybe number 1 right now because the Gronk injury. You never know when this guy's like fully healthy. So maybe we'll just say Kelsey's number 1 for now. Let's first Crosby push. The Jaguars D on the road against the LA Rams. Probably going to be a tough matchup there for the Jaguars. Pete had Panthers D on his bench last night going for 8 points, so I guess, consider that this is a good start. I hope the Jaguars can at least get 8, although the Rams look good at home, so it might be a tough matchup for them. And the Vikings on the other side for the Models at Green Bay will probably put up a big number as well, so that's probably a push of a matchup. So defense probably won't play a huge factor in this game. Now, the site actually has the Waffles favored by about 10. I'm going to say it's about 2 points higher. I'm going to go Waffles by 12 going to 5-1, and the Models dropping to 1-5. So look for the Waffles to win this one by 12. Next! So that brings us to Game 4 of this week's 6 between the number 8 Black Thunder at 2-3-0 and the number 4 Underhill account at 3-2-0. Uh, Black Thunder coming off the big victory over Joppatown, where they only needed 83 points to win the game, and that was 7 points more than they actually needed. So they're obviously not coming in very hot, but they did win, so got to give them the win there. Now, Tuna, coming in on a 3-game winning streak after starting 0-2, has looked very good in these last 3 weeks. And you can look directly at Deshaun Watson, the rookie sensation out of Clemson, who has just been amazing, especially these last 2 weeks. He has 10 touchdowns. He's sick, and he's given new life to DeAndre Hopkins, who Lender also has. So watch out for this team. I'm telling you, if this kid keeps going, forget it. Now, Lender has another rookie here. Excuse me, in Christian McCaffrey, who went last night and provided 17.4 points for him, so that's a good start. At Theo Riddick, we'll see how that works out for him in Detroit at New Orleans. Maybe he gets a touchdown, we'll see. But then the receivers of DeAndre Hopkins, Antonio Brown, who seems to be like the second guy now on this team, which is scary, and Pierre Garçon, who looked great last week. So a very, very tough trio of wide receivers to deal with there, especially those top two. Those guys are just sick right now. But on the other side, you got Alex Smith starting for the Thunder, who's been scoring fantasy points, so it's a good start there. Jordan Howard, C.J. Anderson, and Jerick McKinnon as the three-headed monster there in the backfield. McKinnon off free agency last week looked pretty good, but they're in Green Bay this week, so it might be a different story, but still a pretty good trio for Barco. Now, the receivers is where he's going to struggle. He had Aguilar go last night. He put up 13.5 on a touchdown there and 4 receptions for 55 yards, 13.5 points. Decent for him, who he just picked up. But then he's got Deshaun Jackson, and those two going against the 3 on Lender's side is going to be a tough go. Martellus Bennett versus Brate. Fine, we'll say it's a push. We're still waiting for Bennett to have that big game. He has not had it yet in Green Bay, especially with the way the ball flies around out there. I mean, he still hasn't had that big game. Bryant versus Hopkins at kicker. Push, Buccaneers and Redskins. Defenses, Buccaneers at Arizona. Redskins home against San Fran. You got to give the edge to the Redskins there, you would think. But I really like this trio of wide receivers for Underhill. I think it's going to be way too much for the Thunder to handle. I don't really necessarily love the matchups for Barco this week, so I think it's going to be tough. The site actually has Lender favored by about just over 20 points. Seems a little high, although I do think it's going to be decently high. I think it's going to go 15 points in favor of Underhill this week. I like them to go to 4-2. I think Barco will drop to 2-4. So look for Underhill as the 15-point winner here on Sunday. Next! And in this 5th game of the week, we see number 3 Tough Nuts at 4-1-0 versus the number 11 Funk at 1-4-0. This is the first week in a long time that Tough Nuts is not the number 1 team in the league. Definitely since like week 12 of last year. So, finally that they lose a game after an 8-game winning streak, which is very impressive. They dropped to 3. But look for them to bounce back and probably jump up. If all it takes is a loss from T-Bone and the Waffles, then they'll probably jump right back up. So we'll see how that goes. But they're taking on the Funk, who at 1-4 having trouble scoring. It's probably not going to be an easy road here for the Funk, as like I said, I think Tough Nuts will bounce back and put up a big number this week. So we got Rivers versus Breeze. This might be the only matchup of the week that the Funk can take advantage of. Hopefully it's significant enough for them, but not likely. So look for Breeze to outscore Rivers there. Now, Hunt and Gurley have been amazing this year. Expect for them to have a big week. Gurley is coming off a bad week, but he should be fine again at Jacksonville. So I look for him to have a bounce-back week as well. White and Gore for the Funk. I don't expect that to score a lot of points, and that could be a huge disadvantage for Stork and his Funk team. Blunt last night for Tough Nuts put up 8.7 as their third back swingman. Good enough from a really kind of like last-minute start there. Not bad. Now, Diggs and Fuller making his SAB debut this year. His first start of the season, has 4 touchdowns in 2 games. So let's see if that continues. With Deshaun Watson playing the way he is against Cleveland at home, could be a big week for Fuller again. Now, Jordy Nelson, Emmanuel Sanders, and Jarvis Landry look pretty good on paper for the Funk. They haven't exactly provided the firepower that they're looking for. Nelson's been good, but obviously this Funk is not scoring, so it hasn't been working yet. I mean, it looks nice on paper, but we have to wait and see because hasn't really done anything yet. Now, Stefon Diggs on the other side as the complimentary receiver to Fuller has been great. He's a little banged up as he got hurt last week, so we'll see how that goes, but expect him to do well. Ertz went last night, had 14.8 against Hooper, who the Funk picked up this week for the Falcons. We'll see. He can maybe get a touchdown. He's not targeted a lot, but he seems to take advantage of those targets when he gets them. So that's kind of a wait and see. Obviously, I think Ertz will wind up beating him. Elliott went for tough nuts last night at kicker, the rookie kicker. For the Eagles, put up 11.8. Very good week for a kicker going against Tucker. Obviously, Tucker is one of the better kickers in the league, but it's a kicker, so we'll see. You have to like the output Elliott put up, though. And then the Chiefs D, who's been great against Pittsburgh this week, and Houston, who's going against Cleveland. So I actually think the Stork will get the advantage there with the Texans D over the Chiefs. Honestly, although I don't think it'll be enough, like the Breeze matchup. Breeze and the Texans D are the only matchups I like for the Funk this week against Tough Nuts. So right now, the site has Tough Nuts favored by 22 points. It's hard to favor a team by that much. I do think Tough Nuts will bounce back, and I like them by 17.5 points. So watch for the 17.5 point victory for Tusa. Next! And now to our final game of this week 6 between the number 6 A-Train Wreckers at 3-2-0 versus the number 7 Crack Liberty Bells at 2-3-0. If there was going to be a game of the week, 1A, this would probably be it just based on their ranking. 6 versus 7 was the other game I considered for game of the week, but it didn't really have the luster I felt like that it needed. So let's get to this matchup here. Now the site, just to start off with the site's predictions, they have it at 104.93 to 104.06 in favor of the Bells. So they're basically saying it's going to tie. They're going to tie, or the Bills are going to win by half a point. I don't think it's going to go that way, so we'll save that for the end. But let's look at the quarterbacks here. Matt Ryan versus Brissett. Now I do like Matt Ryan to win this matchup. He's playing at home against the Dolphins, and I think that one will be a nice advantage for Shaw over Brissett, who's Monday night at Tennessee. Now the running backs, Kamara, Hyde, and Doug Martin for the Wreckers. 3 backs, decent. Nothing that blows you off nothing that like jumps off the page at you, but you know, should be a solid production there. Jay Ajayi and Ty Montgomery. Ty Montgomery banged up, and with the way Aaron Jones is playing over there in Green Bay, might be a tough night for Montgomery if he's even in there to get the points. And Jay Ajayi has not looked great so far. Probably more to do with the Miami team than him because he's obviously a good player. So look for him to try to bounce back in Atlanta on that turf there in the Dome. So hopefully Ajayi can have a good game, but we're going to have to wait and see on that one before we really can say he will. Now, Martavis Bryant, Keenan Allen, who's been great with the yards this year, and Danny Amendola, who's stayed healthy so far, surprisingly, for the Patriots. It's a good trio. It's decent. It will be productive. I say it's about as even to the Wreckers running backs. The trio of running backs for the Wreckers and the trio of wide receivers for the Bells look to be about even. Then you got Demaryius Thomas and Mike Evans on the receiver side there for the Wreckers. 2 good names, 2 productive players. Should be pretty good for him again. Safarian Jenkins at tight end, the Jet tight end. You see more and more Jets making it into lineups these days, but going against Delanie Walker, that's probably about a push. I wouldn't expect much to come out of that matchup. Gostkowski versus Zerline, probably another push. Broncos D versus Falcons D. Broncos against the Giants at home, while the Falcons are going against Miami at home. Both relatively good matchups. Maybe give a slight edge to Denver with all the injuries to the Giants with no receivers, basically. So it might be a tough day for New York there. So this game is pretty close. I mean, it's tough to say. It's tough to really push this one way or the other. I'm going to go with the Wreckers here because they seem to be playing better overall this season. Bells are coming off a very nice 125-point effort last week, but I'm going to go with the Wreckers here, and I'm going to give them the victory by 2.9. So look for the Wreckers to win this game by a field goal. So that will do it for another edition of the video newsletter, the Week 6 edition here. The game picks, the commission's analysis. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to set your lineups, pick up players you need to pick up, waiver claims, free agency pickups. If you need my help, get in touch. But for now, good luck and peace!